Good evening. My name is David English, and I'm pastor here at Southside Baptist Church in Palestine, Texas, and we're going to do a little different format tonight. We have a special guest with us tonight, Brian Beckton, who serves in a number of ways, a director of one of our adult departments. He heads up our House and Grounds Committee. He's a deacon, and he's a good friend, just an overall good guy, one of the most Christ-like men I know. And what was interesting about this is so many of you have been interested in Brian's, and it's on his blog on Facebook. Now, I'm going to encourage you to go to that. I'll remind you at the end if I don't forget, but it's Beckton's Appalachian Adventure on Facebook. You can go to that, and you can hear each, not every day, but number of the days that you were on the trail. He would give us, 3, 4, 5, 8 minute type summary of what took place. And if you've not watched that, you got to watch that. After this, you're going to want to do it. So I encourage you to do that. But Brian, welcome, man.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I got a few questions for you, and a lot of these are questions that a lot of people have been asking, and so this is your chance to answer these questions and not ever have to answer them again, all right? The whole world will know now. All right, so the first question, and I want to tell you, we've got some mental health experts on standby just in case here, all right? But what inspires a gentleman who looks sane, what inspires him to say, I want to spend 5, 6 months and walk 2,000 miles on the Appalachian Trail? What started all that?
David, they say there's about 3 or 4 different groups that hike the Appalachian Trail. And one of the groups is kids that just graduated high school, and they're trying to find...
You missed that one. Yeah, you missed that one.
I missed that one.
Yeah.
And they're trying to... They're trying to find themselves to see what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And then you have another group, they just graduated from college and or university, and before they start their career for the next 30 years, they want to get this out of the way and do it, and not have to wait till they're old like me. And then then there's another group of individuals who have just been fired or laid off, like many people have this year during this COVID virus, and they're trying to figure, okay, what am I going to do next? I mean, what. And they're searching. They're searching for not necessarily for what the Lord has for them to do, but and then there's people like me who just retired, and maybe you're looking for an adventure or something challenging, and that right there, it will. The Appalachian Trail, I promise you, it will challenge you mentally, physically, psychologically, emotionally, and especially spiritually, and I highly recommend it.
So basically, in your journey, how many miles are we talking about roughly? How many states are we talking about? You're walking through these areas.
When you Google the Appalachian Trail, you're going to see that it runs anywhere from 2,180 miles to 2,193. But so everybody just rounds it off to 2,200. The reason nobody can just pinpoint exactly how many miles it is that it's constantly changing due to erosion and things of that nature. They're constantly, the people who maintain the trails are constantly moving it around a little bit to help the wildlife, whether that be the animals, plants, whatever. It also runs through 14 different states, starts in Georgia, ends in Maine. And then I can't remember how many national parks and forests that it runs through, but it's but it's the shortest one out of the other 2 that are out there in America.
Great way to see beautiful part of America.
Yes.
So in your understanding, I don't know if you got to this part or not. What part of the trail is the most difficult, and why would that be the most difficult in your estimation?
I tell you that the one that was most difficult for me wasn't even a part of the trail. It was the approach trail. It's 8.8 miles, and it doesn't even count. It doesn't even count as far as the Appalachian Trail goes. It used to be a part of the Appalachian Trail, but back in the late 1950s, they erased it. I don't know why, but that 8.8 mile. Oh my gosh, David! It was extremely difficult. I wasn't acclimated to the environment or to the thin air, and wow! I mean, I was having to stop every quarter mile trying to catch my breath, and that was more difficult than anything else. There was there was two other times that was kind of I don't know if you call it dangerous. There was one time it was on a mountain called Blood Mountain. It had been raining severely, and the top of the mountain is nothing but granite, and when it's wet, it's extremely slick, and you have to do everything you can not to slip and fall. I was glad to get off the mountain there. Another time was climbing another mountain where it was extremely the wind and the rain was making it very, very difficult, and I was glad to get through that as well. But as far as they say in Pennsylvania that it is extremely dangerous. I suppose they're saying the rocks are so terrible, so jagged and sharp, and they say you can buy a brand new pair of boots before you step into Pennsylvania. And when you step out, you need another brand new pair. But they say do not fall in Pennsylvania; you will hurt yourself bad. So,
wow. Okay. So that's good part. So you be prepared for that time you get to that part. So how much before you had to stop this time? How much of the trail had you walked? What part of the journey had you accomplished?
I got as far as Fontana Dam, right there on Fontana Lake, and in the visitor center there. It's about probably roughly 6-7 miles before you get to Tennessee. I was still in North Carolina at the time. Just 1 mile before I got to the Smoky Mountains, and that was 166 point something miles, and that's not counting the 8.8 miles, which would make it about 175. But anywhere from 166 to 175 miles is as far as I got. Okay. Still had over 2,000 miles to go.
Well, now, and we're going to get into some things about later on. But what made you stop? What was the issue here? I mean, a lot of people know the big issues, but what specifically? Why did you have to? Because I know you were trying to fight that. You wanted to keep going. I know.
I did. I wanted to keep going. Every time I spoke to Missy on the phone, she was telling me what was going on in America. When I first started the trail, none of this had started. There was a little bit of things going on, but not all these store closings and things of that nature. And she was talking to me about it and how the hotels were shutting down and the trail was shutting down, and it got to the point to where I was even having difficulty finding a shuttle to get me into town so I could get resupplied. There was one time I walked almost 5 miles to a little community just to get to a little convenience store to get some food. And all the books I read 5 different books by 5 different thru hikers, and they're all like, "Oh, don't you worry, man. When you start walking, you won't go a quarter mile. Somebody's going to pick you up." No, that didn't happen. I had 2 ambulances pass by me. They slowed down, looked at me, and I guess it was like, well, he's still standing up. He's fine. He can, and they took. I was trying to look as pathetic as I could, and it still didn't help. And then I got kicked out of a hotel. Because the hotels, and I guess this is nationwide, but they are not allowed to take anyone for less than 28 days. And then a hostel went ahead and took me, and but he was telling me what to say and what not to say if the law arrived, because he'd already had lawmen come and talk to him several times already complaining. So, but yeah, it was getting just. They say choose your battles wisely, and I was trying to, when you get to the point where you're concerned, because probably the last 50 miles that I hiked, the trail was closed, and I'd be looking this way and that way, seeing if I could see any park rangers or forest rangers, and I took off. But when you get to the point where you're looking ahead at the trail, trying to see if you're going to find anybody that's going to arrest you, and you're not really paying attention to God's creation, then it's probably time to get off the trail.
Particularly as a retired DPS officer, I guess that trooper. I guess that would be another issue.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of back of your mind too. Yeah. So what were your feelings? Do you remember what your feelings were when you realized I got to stop? I mean, this is it. It's time to go. Missy's talked to me.
Yeah.
It's time. What did you feel? How did you feel?
At the beginning, I was. I could tell Missy wanted me to get off, but I kept telling her, look, I started this to finish it, not to, quit at any time before I get to the finish line. And you know, when I finally came to the conclusion I'm going to have to get off, I really, Missy, and it seemed like all my friends was more upset about it than I was, because finally the Lord revealed something to me, and I was thinking, you know, what better place to come back than to start at the Smoky Mountains? You know, I couldn't think of a better place to start back on the Appalachian Trail than right there. And so I was looking forward to coming back and finishing up. I thought, you know what, I'm still going to hike the whole thing. I may not be able to say I'm a through hiker, but I can say that I hiked the entire Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
And when I do,
you're not a through hiker, but there's an asterisk because you couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't do that. So what was the biggest surprise to you while you were on the trail? You were on there roughly a month. Does that get
3 weeks?
3 weeks. So what was the biggest surprise to you?
Just the difficulties I ran across with COVID, because nothing was happening like all the books that I read. Nothing was happening like the way I expected it to happen. And to run across all these trail angels, these would be people like, you know, the trail comes to a road or comes to a park, and then and these people are out there, they're grilling hamburgers and hot dogs for you, for the through hiker, and they got a cooler full of Cokes and other drinks, and maybe somebody's out there with a whole bunch of pastries and donuts, and I didn't experience any of that. Didn't experience any of that.
No free food.
I mean, there was nobody out there. There was nobody in the parks. And
Wow.
I'd come into little communities, and they're abandoned. They're deserted, and these are like places that are like vacation spots, you know. And so it was. I felt like the Omega Man, you know, when I would get to these areas, and I'm the only person around. So it was. Yeah.
Well, in the 3 weeks, did you ever did it feel like you were really running short of food or water during that time? And I mean, what did you just keep walking, or
I never really ran food. I always made sure that I always had plenty of food. Your appetite will. It doesn't make sense, but your appetite will decrease. As you're on the mountain. You would think it would increase,
yes,
because all these calories you're burning, but your body apparently is going into shock with all this hiking and exercising that it's not used to doing, and apparently it's eating, you know, all the fat in your body, and Andy, the guy I took off with, who I started the trail with, he wasn't eating. You know, I was forcing myself to eat. To get all those carbs and everything and protein, but he wasn't eating, and he was getting all these headaches, and so he realized what was happening, so he started eating more but yeah, it was, but water, you won't run out of water. There's so much out there on the trail. You'll come across so many streams and little creeks, and where the